Did you do 90 meetings in 90 days?
I did. So the 90 meetings in 90 days, I did. I didn't really get the whole logic behind it, which is I didn't question it, which is good. I mean, I think that's important. I think that when you're working in recovery, a big part of the surrender is setting aside your own ideas and your own education and your own mindset of what you think is good for you and listening to the professionals, listening to the people that you've entrusted your care and well-being to, and sometimes that's just a blind faith and a blind trust that you say, you know what, I'm not going to question why they're asking me to do it. I'm just going to do the work.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon. My name is B Reeves. I am the Director of Admissions and Outreach at New Waters Recovery in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm sitting here today with my friend and colleague, Ryan Jarrell, who is our continuing care coordinator, and really happy to have Nash Redwine, who was our second client who came on our first day when our doors first opened, October 5th, back in the fall. And we're very honored to have him here today. And so we just are going to have kind of an open conversation about, how we all ended up finding help, what life has been like, a short version of what it was like, what happened and what we're like now. And I'll start with Ryan and just sort of throw it over to him about kind of what he does here. And then I'll talk for 2 seconds about what I do. And then we'll talk to Nash.
Absolutely. And guys, it's great to sit with you this afternoon. And Nash, I just want to let you know, like, your name, you're like a legend around here. Okay. People bring up Nash and it's always just for like all the positive traits that we want in like a former client. So I was like super excited to meet you like when you came out. Cause it's just, I saw Nash here. Nash is doing this. Nash is doing this.
Well, I hope I don't mess things up from here. So
yeah, I know you got a lot to live up to. You know what I mean?
No added pressure, of course, right?
No follow-up podcast, guys. You guys will know what that means, so I'm the continuing care coordinator here, and what that means is I work with clients and their families to identify the best treatment selection, whether it has to do with financial, general demographic, et cetera. And I kind of work on the logistical end to make sure it's as smooth a transfer as possible.
Cool. And as Director of Admissions and Outreach, my primary job is being the first call for when a family in crisis or an individual in crisis needs detox. Or sometimes they don't know what they need, but they call me and I just say, hey, listen, no matter what, I'm going to help you figure it out, whether or not we're a good fit. And in a perfect world, we'll do a bunch of kind of paperwork on the front end, what's called a pre-admission. And then there are times when I'm also out on the road talking about our program and vetting out others in the process. But back to that pre-admission, in a perfect world, we get a call. And then I talk to them for 30 or 45 minutes, make sure that they're a good fit. But every now and then we have somebody who just shows up. And that was the case with Nash. One of my oldest friends I've known my entire life called me and said that he was on his way over and he had somebody with him who needed help. And Nash was our first walk-in, our second client ever and our first walk-in. So you want to talk a little bit about that day and what that was like?
Absolutely, yeah. So that day was October the 5th of 2022. It was a Wednesday. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea where I was going, and I didn't really care. I was in such a position of distress or weakness, or I don't even. I know I surrendered that day, but I wouldn't say that I felt like that. I was in that mindset. Other than I just kind of, it was tough. And specifically, I remember the ride over here because that guy that you were mentioning, he. And my other business partner were at my house, and we were just talking through opportunities or options. And, the one guy said, hey, what do you think about going to an AA meeting? And I was like, absolutely not. And I was like, I won't do that. I felt so horrible that I couldn't conceive going into a room of people who were trying to get well. And we decided to take a chance on this facility because we had heard about it, the opening or the pending opening, not knowing anything other than it existed and a little bit about what it may do. So on the way over here, my business partner had called and left a message. B called us back in the car, and while we're riding in the car, the guy that is B is known forever. He's in the back seat, and he says, "B, this is such and such," and B's like, "Oh my God, are you the one that's coming in here?" And that guy said, no, it's not me. And I said, and then that's when I spoke up and I said, "No, B, my name is Nash. I'm the one that's coming in." And we came in pretty hot, and the facility had just opened that day and probably only a few hours old.
Literally like 3 hours.
Yeah, and you guys were not taking walk-ins basically as a business model for all the right reasons, I'm sure. But you were kind and generous and could see that I was obviously in need. And, like a lot of things in my life, I've been very blessed to be in the right place at the right time. And I don't know how else to say it other than that. And this place was the right place at my wrong time. And B told me when I got here, he said, "I know this is going to sound hard to believe or imagine, but this is going to be the worst day of your life and the best day of your life, maybe at the same time." And certainly, I know that now. I'm grateful to have found my way here and gotten the start that I got, in the program of recovery that I'm in today and on the journey that I'm on today. So grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be able to give back and offer any kind of experience or advice or whatever for anybody else that's out there that may end up watching this someday. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you guys do. I know it's a tough way to make a living. So that's it for now, and we'll keep on talking.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for being here, and kind of wanted to throw it over to you just about. When he was talking, it made me think about something that I haven't thought of as much lately. And I used to talk to families about this a lot and feel like we all have a finite number of windows of opportunity just to begin our recovery. And, sounds like in your case, you were at kind of a bottom, and in that moment you found yourself, at our door. And, my case was a little different, but the same as, I found myself in a treatment center too, when I was at a bottom. And I don't want to find out, because I know people who have had several opportunities and, to get better and stay better. And some people who have not made it to find that other opportunity, or even had one window of opportunity. And just kind of from what you see, not only in your work life, but in your recovery life outside of work, like kind of touch on that, these windows of opportunity and being in the right place at the right time in order to begin one's recovery.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, Nash, you really hit on like what is so essential. Like, recovery cannot begin until a person is ready to seek an answer, right? And my experience in like personal recovery was I had all the answers. Like, I knew exactly what I needed to do at any given point in time. Like, I knew I just needed to get a little bit more money. People needed to get off my back. Other people needed to treat me this, that, or the other way. And when these external life circumstances like kind of lined up, I would be okay. And I believe that my internal disarray was due to the fact that externally things weren't working out the way that I wanted to. And, I think when we get in recovery, and Nash, I think the moment that you spoke about when you wrote in is when you realize, no, I have to work on my internal self, and the external self is going to be what it's going to be. That's the ultimate state of surrender that people have identified as a key moment in recovery for 90 plus years, The issue with that is the number of fears that kind of swim around and well around in you as you engage in that feeling of surrender. I definitely personally, I went to detox. They gave me a bunch of suggestions. I took none of them. And surprise, surprise, guess what happened? Literally 20 minutes from when I discharged from the facility, I'm getting messed up again. And, it was that moment of the second, third, fourth day I'm there, stack of Bibles, polygraph test, I will never use again. Come 7 days and 20 minutes later when I'm left to my own devices, and we all know, kind of what went on. And then that was months more of chaos. So I had personally, like I had a lot of doors open and a lot of doors closed. The blessing in my life was that, when I wasn't doing the right thing, my family and friends, they really weren't there for me. Like, understandably so. There was nothing wrong with that. But when I was ready to get help, they were there ready to pick me up. And Nash, it sounds like that was your experience as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And they were there, they were available. And I was honest. I mean, it really started with a phone call that morning when I was talking to my business partner. He wanted to get together at the office and go through some stuff. And I just said, look, man, I can't do it. I said, if you want to come here to my house and talk, I'd be glad to talk to you. I said, but I'm not doing well. And he said, well, what's going on? And I said, man, I can't quit drinking. And I didn't have, the thing about it is that day I could have said, look, you just leave me alone. I could have said, I need some space, I need some time, I need whatever I need. And I needed to be honest at that moment, and I was, and he was already probably aware that things were not right, and luckily enough, I had him and some other people in my life that were paying attention and that were present and available for when I was ready to have an honest conversation about the frailty of the position I was in. They were there and ready to lend a hand.
Love it. Yeah. Just since you're here, it made me think too, this is, we are a 7-day detox. And when you came, we were, I think only 5 was our minimum then. Yeah. So, but the very, very tip of the iceberg. And then you went on to residential treatment for 45 days.
42.
42 days. And Ryan's main job is to get people like you to continue their treatment, which can prove difficult, right? But then, even then, that's still training wheels. At some point, and it's different for everybody, whether we go to just detox or, treatment for a year, at some point the training wheels are off.
Right.
And it's time to, do this on our own with the help of sponsorship and a recovery community. But in terms of being kind of told what to do every day by a treatment center. And so kind of tell us what you're doing on a daily basis to, just to stay sober and serene.
Yeah, so I'll just hit very quickly kind of my journey through New Waters and then into treatment and what it's been like since then, if that's okay.
Please.
So came in here, like I said, on a Wednesday, October the 5th, and really didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what I was getting into, but I was just ready for help, whatever that help was. Gladly handed over my telephone, the keys to my vehicle, and my wallet, and I said, take it all. I'm blessed with a wonderful and loving wife and children, and I shut the door on them and everything else, and I was comfortable walking away from the world for a while I just focused on me. And you guys were so good that by Saturday, a few days later, I was convinced that I was well enough that I was going to be released from here and sent on home to start going to some type of outpatient type program in the community, if that was this or that or whatever it was. And I thought, wow, I'm already doing so much better 3 or 4 days into this thing, and I'm so clear and clear headed and feeling good that that's what they're going to do. But thanks to this program and the people here at the time, they made a very strong suggestion, along with the guidance of my family members, that I needed more treatment. So I went to another facility that's in Western North Carolina and it's a 6-week program there, and spent 6 weeks there. That was invaluable as well. I know that I would not have done as well there, accepting the curriculum, accepting the help and treatment there, if I didn't have my start here at New Waters. And I think that's big, because I think when you're in a difficult situation like I was, you need some time to just decompress and get well physically and mentally before you start trying to work on greater physical and mental challenges of, learning the stuff you need to learn in recovery. It's kind of heavy material in the fact that it's very introspective or self-oriented, and it's not an easy topic to work through, and it's not an easy time to work through that stuff. So coming into a treatment facility for me that was inpatient with a clear head and a good start like I got from here was huge. And my willingness and my honesty there to work on myself and to be present with the people that were in the program there, I know was important and helpful. I got out of that facility on Sunday, November the 20th, and that was a Sunday before Thanksgiving. I could have stayed there longer. I could have done some deeper diving there, and I think that they have a great program to do that type of work, and I suggest that people, if they have the time and the financial resources to do it, to continue to follow through there. For me, I was frankly ready to get home. It was going to be Thanksgiving that week. I felt strong enough in my foundation of my recovery to feel good about leaving there. I felt like coming back to Raleigh, where I live, in a community where I've got a lot of family and a lot of friends, and I've got a lot of friends in recovery that have been recovered for a long, long time. I felt like I was coming back to an environment where I had a really great opportunity to continue the work that was there. So I that's why I felt okay leaving after 6 weeks. And I think that's a lot of time to get, and I knew I was not, I knew I was no, and so I also knew and was firmly committed to the fact that I was not finished with my recovery. And I was just, we at the treatment facility I was in, we called it a running start. Mm-hmm. Right. And you knew you were hitting a lot of different topics, and you were only getting to, barely to the surface level, and you were not doing the deep dive that you need to do to figure out why you're doing what you're doing. So since I've been out, I've been going to meetings with, groups that are in my community, to work on my program of recovery. I do that every day. I see a therapist probably once a week on a regular basis.
Did you do 90 meetings in 90 days?
I did. So the 90 meetings in 90 days, I did. I didn't really get the whole logic behind it, which is I didn't question it, which is good. I mean, exactly. I think that's important. I think that when you're working in recovery, a big part of the surrender is setting aside your own ideas and your own education and your own mindset of what you think is good for you, and listening to the professionals, listening to the people that you've entrusted your care and well-being to, and sometimes that's just a blind faith and a blind trust that you say, you know what, I'm not going to question why they're asking me to do it. I'm just going to do the work. And so I did the 90 and 90 as I was suggested. And in going through that commitment, you understand pretty quickly the logic and the genius of doing that work. And I did more than that. If it's one meeting a day and for 90 days, it's not 3 meetings a day, then skip the next couple of days. It's 90 meetings. It's a meeting a day for 90 days is kind of a minimum. And I went beyond that. There's one day when I did, I think, one therapist appointment and 3 meetings in a given day. So you can kind of get wrapped up in it. And I don't know how you do too much of it, but, I certainly gave it a shot. So the surrender that got me to New Waters, and then I had to surrender again when I left New Waters with the advice that I go somewhere else. It was a really hard pill for me to swallow. When I thought on that Saturday that I thought that I was getting the pat on the back and, hey, you're doing great, get back in the community. That was a really hard thing for me to have to accept, because at that point I was already feeling better, right? And I was starting to exercise that good self-will and that self-knowledge of, hey, I think I've got a handle on this thing.
Yeah, that's something I wanted touch on and talk to you about too is that we see this a lot. You know, I actually kind of forgot that you, like, I have this memory of you that you were like, oh yeah, anything, but you put up a little bit of a fight.
I said, hey, now wait a minute, let's talk about this a little bit, and then it really took me about 24 hours of reflection, and I said, you know what, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near ready, and so
you were willing.
I was willing. I wasn't as willing as when I first came in here, but that's the beauty of surrender. That's the beauty of surrender when I got here, the beauty of surrender while I was here, and the beauty of surrender once again when I got to that facility where it was like another aha moment or another wow, this is really happening.
Yeah.
You know, it's surreal what you're going through. It's heavy stuff, you know, and you're willingly saying to yourself and to the people around you, yes, I'll do this. I'll go away from my family and my loved ones. I'll surrender my freedom for a new freedom.
Exactly. Well, and also the thing about, you know, when you're talking about feeling better, and I talk to families about this all the time, especially when they come to detox and then they're on fire like you were. And then when it comes time for Ryan to find that place for them to go, they look better, they sound better, they feel better. You know, and especially if the families are new to this, you know, they see their loved one and that loved one speaking a new language. And it is a lot better than they were 7 days ago, but nowhere near ready for the real world again. And so there's this false sense of confidence that comes from detox only sometimes, where people get so much better than they were really fast. And then they go back out there in the world when they don't take suggestions, and it doesn't usually end well. Is that
absolutely
your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the misapprehensions surrounding like substance use disorder, right, is it's something that just exists in the body. We're a medical detox, and what we do is we treat a physical dependence upon the substance of choice, whether it be alcohol or other substances. However, what I reflect to families constantly is they need to look back and see, okay, there was a physical addiction to a substance. How did that come about? Why did your mental coping skills lead you to the substance to such a degree that your body is now physically addicted to it? Because we can put you right like you were before you started drinking again, but if we don't address the issues that caused you to drink in the first place, you're going to be right back at it. And we've unfortunately and tragically seen that play out time and time again, where we have clients that they are feeling better, they're doing better. They don't think they need this next level of suggestion because the physical dependence is removed. They're in a controlled situation. I think when people tell me they honestly can't imagine drinking, I mean, I did the same thing. I don't think these people are lying to me at all. I think what they are doing is underestimating the strength of addiction and disease and the way that it can twist our perception and our thinking. And that's a really hard thing to attempt to interrupt. You know, it's a really hard thing for families, and it's a really hard thing for individuals. They have to trust some people, me, B, and some other people who they met 48 hours ago, and they have no idea, you know what I mean, reasonably what our motivations are. So to have that level of trust and have that level of surrender, Nash, you know, it's just such a gift to be able to have that and roll with that resistance and just say, I'm just going to take these people, I'm going to see them as genuine, and I'm going to take their suggestions. Nash, you know, I think hopefully there are people listening to this who they're right about to engage in the recovery journey, or there are family members that are about to engage in the recovery journey, and they're just right on that edge. And like, I've been on that knife's edge, you've been on that knife's edge, B's been on this knife's edge. And I was wondering if you could give any advice or suggestions to people who are maybe thinking about engaging in a detox or rehabilitation process, but they don't know what to expect next.
Yeah. So, it's funny. When I was in my active addiction and drinking really heavily, I would spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the cures for hangovers were, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would Google this and I would read that, and I'd spend a lot of time, right? I would do some research. I would do some research and development, trying to figure out what could I do differently? How can I prep this thing the night before so I don't feel like utter garbage tomorrow? And I think that the answer is really clear. You just don't drink, right? And that's the only way to avoid a hangover. I think that what what people need to be aware of is how dangerous it is to detox off of alcohol and or a lot of other drugs. And it's dangerous, obviously, in a physical sense. It's very difficult, I think, emotionally and mentally. You know, your body has become chemically dependent on this stuff. And I don't know how you can do it any more safely than you guys do it in your environment or in other environments as well. I think it's imperative to have the best care you can get, to get the best start you can get, to work your way towards recovery. Because if you start with the best opportunity and the best effort, then I think it can go well. If it doesn't go well from the beginning, and people are jaded by the process or the people they're working with, then I think you probably got an even bigger problem. I don't. I spend a lot of money to get well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would gladly spend it again if I had to double down on the investment. And that's what I see. I think people see it as an expense, which is a mistake. I see the cost that's associated with it. I see the time that's associated with it as nothing short as short of an investment. It's an investment in you. And where else would you want to spend your money than in yourself? You know, and for me, it was going to treatment and realizing that I had given up on me a long time ago. I stopped reading things that challenged me. I stopped learning. I stopped growing, and I got lost in spiritual growth and in educational or mental growth. And I think we do that as human beings. I think we grow up as children being forced to go to school, and we're like, oh, these awful educators who are making us get educated, making us be smarter, and making us learn how about these people that are teaching us how to, get through life and navigate things through life. It's confounding. And when you get in and when you get into a position where you're like, I'm a fool. I've been trying to kill myself for why? And I've been blocking out life. And you start to see those things when you start to recover. I did anyways. And I start to see some of the light in getting through that darkness and that dark period. And I got to start to see some of the promise of living my life in a new direction with a better perspective and a greater sense of what it means to be happy, joyous, and free. And man, there's a lot of work to be done. I got a lot of work to be done. I mean, I think I think for people that see people coming from a detox facility, whether it be New Orders or another place, and thinking that that their loved ones are cured, there could not be anything more dangerous than that. They're not. You're not. I was not. The worst thing that could have ever happened to me would have been to have been put back in the general population before I had an opportunity to really experience that next level of challenge and growth and moving towards, it's introspection, right? You got to focus on you and figure out where you went wrong and what you need to do to find some serenity, some peace, some focus on life and what you want to do. Good Lord willing, next week will be 6 months for me without a drink or a drug. I've not had. I mean, maybe since I came in here, maybe I've had some cough syrup or something when I had a really horrible cold or sinus infection. I've not taken any Advil or Tylenol for any kind of pain or anything like that. I sleep incredibly well. I was asked on the way in here if I've been exercising a lot, and by a guy that works here, and I said, no, I haven't, because the group I exercise with in the mornings, it's just too early. I sleep too well. I'm having too much. Life is good and getting better. And I'm not interested in what a drink or a drug would do to. It can't make what I got better. I'm convinced of that. But I also know that it's just a daily reprieve every day, and I've just got an opportunity every day to work on me a little bit more, and just and try and give back a little bit of why I'm here. You know, if I haven't said it already, but I'm here just to maybe make it that much easier for somebody else to find their way into recovery, and that's really what this program and all programs are about in recovery is just, you know, letting people know that it's a challenging way. It's not easy, but it's the more meaningful way to get through life. So I'm around people now on the other side, and now that I'm in recovery, it's like, hey, here's our friend Nash. You know, he doesn't drink, and I'm the weird one, right? I'm not normal because I don't drink, and I'm like, when did it ever get? When did drinking become the normal way to get through life? You know, when did drugs become the normal way to? I mean, why has that got to be that way? It's bizarre, but that's the world we live in, and you can't change that part of it until you got to show some people's mindsets that this is the better way, this is the right way to live. It's where I am, and it's where I'm staying. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's, you know, when I was in treatment and getting out of treatment in that facility I was in, and I know that I had a full appreciation, or a fuller, real appreciation for what people in recovery have to do. They got to go to work every day and bust their butts trying to save people's lives, knowing that a lot of people don't make it. And that's not easy. And it's sad. But, you know, it's, my sister works in a field that's very difficult, where she's in child advocacy, right? So she's constantly in a world of things that are tough for people. So I'm aware of people who have crappy jobs trying to help other people out and how difficult it is. So anything that I can do to give back, I'm all on board. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Nash.
Thank you, B.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, everybody.